Hi, it's Rachel from Sending the Congregation again. If you're listening to this, thank you so much. If you've listened to parts one and two, again, thank you so much for listening. And thank you to everyone who's taken the time to get in touch. There's so many people who've commented and sent messages and sent emails, and it's been great hearing from you, hearing how you've been affected by issues, hearing your input and your feedback and how you change things and just everything. It's been so nice, and it's so great to meet you all as well. So thank you so much for getting in touch. So there are a few things that people wanted me to pick up on again, because obviously the first two, to kind of cram them into under 2 hours, we really did skim over a lot of things. So they were mentioned, but not really like looked at in any kind of detail. And one of them, which is the big thing that I've been reading up on and looking into over the last few years, is the ticketing part of it. So the ticketing industry is massive. There, you could talk on it for hours and hours and hours, and still not cover everything. And it's also that there are places where it's really opaque as well, where even people in the industry don't quite know how it works. So I've taken the one part that bugs everybody, and that's why it's hard for you guys to get hold of tickets that you want, and some of the changes that could be made to make it easier. So we're going to go over a couple of bits, I think, from part one. So Live Nation and Ticketmaster are a merged company. They merged in late 2009, with the merger becoming official in 2010. So they own 80% of the US ticket market in some way or another. So it may be that venues have exclusive deals with Ticketmaster. It may be that the venue is owned by, leased to, or affiliated with Live Nation. Here in the UK, they own 25% of our festivals. So you're talking Reading, Leeds, Download, Creamfields, Isle of Wight Festival, and places like that. Our smaller independent festivals are calling on the government to investigate this, and whether it violates monopoly laws, whether they should be allowed to own a quarter of our festivals. So one of the big things is that for many people, the choice of where they buy their tickets has been taken away. So this freedom of choice is available in so many areas of our life. So you get to choose which supermarket you go to, what you get to eat, what you get to wear. You get to choose how you have your healthcare delivered to you, whether you even take part in healthcare, what treatment you have, whether you want treatment, stuff like that. So why is buying tickets to a concert any different? Why are you, especially in the US, filtered through one company? Why aren't you given the choice? So another thing is the market value, and we covered this a bit, I think, in part one. So the market value is the price that someone is willing to pay for a ticket. So if someone pays $500 on a secondary site for a ticket, then that is classed as the market value. So the $70 ticket that you bought is just to entice you in. So the other thing is fees. The fees started out as a way to pay for Ticketmaster systems and wages and keep the lights on and keep the water running and stuff like that. I think it started out something like 30 cents a ticket, so it's really low. And again, if you go and read the book, Ticketmaster's The Rise of the Concert Industry and How the Public Got Scalped, it talks you through that whole history, and especially how Ticketmaster started out for the fans and as a way to get tickets to people who really wanted them. So eventually, promoters, venues, and artists saw the amount of money that was being made off these fees, and they wanted in on that. So, which is why they're at what they're at now. And so on Ticketmaster's website, there's actually a breakdown of the fees and who they go to. And so the face value is set by the client, and the client is normally the venue. So that is then given to the artist, and then obviously goes on to pay for crew and staging and equipment and anything else they need. So the service and order processing fee, so this is for ticket handling, shipping and support. This fee is collected by Ticketmaster and is typically shared with their clients, so the venues. Delivery fees are determined by clients and vary from event to event. Delivery, whether mail or print at home, varies depending again on the event. So you may pay, $10 for having a ticket physically shipped to you, or you may pay, $2.50 to print it at home. I think in the UK there's a bit of a cap on these fees. I know the last time that I bought tickets for anything, it was a while ago, probably about 18 months now. Ago, the fee was capped at like £5 a ticket or something, so it wasn't that bad. So facility charge, again, this is a decision that's made by the clients, and they decide whether to add this, and it helps the clients operate and invest back in the venues themselves. This charge varies from event to event. Ticketmaster does not keep these fees and passes them on to the venues. City, state, local taxes are included in face value price, but may be listed as a separate charge. So you can find that on Ticketmaster's website. If you Google breakdown of Ticketmaster fees, it should take you to that. There's a really, really, really good podcast out there by Freakonomics. So it's episode number 311. And it talks about the fees and the percentages of how these are split with everybody. They talk to a whole bunch of people on that podcast, including Ticketmaster themselves, which is really great. And I do actually highly recommend getting online and finding that. I think it's on their website. I had trouble finding it on Apple's podcast, but they do have a profile on there. So another thing that people have picked up on is the way that the website itself behaves. And some of this is going to be by design. So I think we talked about how when you go to book a hotel, it will say, this hotel is hot, 20 people have booked it in the last 24 hours. We only have one room left. So this is by design. This is to play on that psychological aspect of getting you to click buy there and then. They don't want you to go away and think about it. They want you to make that impulse decision. The same goes with Ticketmaster with when tickets are disappearing out of baskets, for example. I've seen that a lot, actually. It's in your basket. You're going through the whole process because you have to go through goodness knows how many pages before you get to putting your credit card information in. And the tickets are in your basket, in your basket, in your basket. You go to plug in your credit card information, you hit buy, and the tickets have disappeared, and this message comes up that says somebody else has already bought these tickets. So why is that happening? You go on Amazon, you put something in your basket, it sits there for like 3 days till you go and buy it. Obviously, this isn't going to happen with tickets, and you do have a limited amount of time to actually physically buy them. Do they give you, is it 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that? So why are these tickets disappearing from your basket within that time limit? Shouldn't they be disappearing after the 15 minutes? If it takes you that long to get through, which it shouldn't do. I think they say that a fast typist should be able to fill in like the login form and things in about 10 seconds. So it's, it shouldn't be taking too long to get through to the pay screen. So the countdown clock as well, again, is by design. All of it is to play on that impulse decision. They don't want to give you time to think of going, do I want to spend this money? Do I need to spend this money? Do I need this in my life? Is it adding value to my life? They want you to go, I want to go. I want to go to this show. I'm just going to click buy and screw it. Whatever happens, happens. So, something that I don't think by design is Ticketmaster crashing. This is a weird one because the company is so big and deals with so many high-profile events, yet every time a big event goes on sale, I always see complaints of the website crashed. Ticketmaster crashed, and when I managed to get back online, all the tickets are gone. It's like, why is this happening for such a big company? Why have they not got the infrastructure in place to make sure that big events like Metallica and Taylor Swift and the Foo Fighters and whatnot actually happens, rather than kind of grinding to a halt kind of a minute in? It's a weird one, and you kind of sit there and think on it and wonder what is going on. And I know that they're buying up a couple of companies. They bought up one last year, a blockchain company, which we'll get into later. And you wonder, are they trying to stabilize their system? Is the system stable? Is it a workable system? Is it still using 15, 20-year-old code underneath, which it's not unusual. I run a website with a couple of friends, and it's running on 15-year-old code, which is slowly falling apart, and we keep patching up bugs as we find them, but it does need a complete rewrite, which is something that none of us have got round to yet because we haven't had the time, and because we run it for free as well. We don't make any money off it. It's a bit like, yeah, but it can wait until it's like absolutely desperate before we do something. So, we've been over all of this. So we've been over quickly what fees are for, how the website acts, percentages of ownership, who has, what market share and things like that. So, what I want to look at is how tickets can better be distributed. And there are so many ways, and I've spoken to so many people, and everybody has had the same answer, and they're all so freaking simple. It's insane. It's like, you couldn't get any more simple with some of them. Because I want to see tickets getting into the hands of the right people. I don't want to be trying for shows. This is why I haven't bought tickets to a show in like 18 months, is because I really can't be dealing with the stress of it. At the minute, I didn't want that stress. I didn't want the anguish. I didn't want to be hunting around to find somebody who's not working at 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning, to get tickets for me. That's another issue. It's like, why does everything go on sale at 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning or 10 o'clock on a Friday morning? When most people at work, I suppose it's, it is to stop the website overloading. But it's like, there is the vast majority of people who want those tickets might not be able to get online at that time. So, one of the ways of ticket distribution that's being looked into at the minute is blockchain. I'm not very good with this, and I had to go and read, and explain it like I'm 5 article on blockchain, and I still can't quite wrap my head around it. And if I get any of this wrong, I'm sure that somebody will come along and correct me. So, blockchain decentralizes business and lowers the use of middlemen. For example, somebody like Ticketmaster. So, trade is between individuals without having to use a company. So that trade is direct. So it would literally be like you and I. One of us would have a ticket, the other one wouldn't. And I'd give the ticket to you and you give me the money. That's it. There would be no eBay, no StubHub, no Ticketmaster, nobody like that in the middle. It'd just literally be us, maybe sitting in a coffee shop. That's how I take it. So the information on this ticket is stored on blocks on the chain, hence the name. So every block contains the information of the previous block. So block 1 would be the starting one, and if this was a ticket, you would assume that it would have some kind of verification in it that would say that this was a ticket for the Foo Fighters show on Saturday at Wembley Stadium. It would have information on where the ticket had come from, so TicketMaster. It would have information of the buyer, so you. It would probably have your name in it. It might have your credit card information in it, but it's all stored securely. I think they call it a hash number, and it's a string of numbers, and each of those is individual. So block number 2 would have the information from block number 1 as well as the information for block number 2. If the ticket was then sold on a third time, it would have the information from block number 3 as well as its own unique information. And that information would be, block number 3's information would be something like, this is a ticket for the Foo Fighters at Wembley Stadium on Saturday. The ticket was originally bought by you from Ticketmaster. It was then sold to person A, who then sold it on to person B, and then it would have their information as well. So if this information is modified, added to, or removed, the chain becomes invalid. And I think it corrupts itself. So that ticket would then become invalid, which then obviously brings up the question of, if big companies are investing in blockchain for ticketing, what's to stop them from going, okay, the original batch of 20,000 tickets that we sold, we priced too low. We want to resell them. So why don't we just destroy those 20,000 tickets and then resell them, with a $10, $20 markup? So that's what's worrying. And apparently this won't happen. There are companies that are wanting to put protocols in place and rules in place that would stop companies from doing that. So these companies, they would set the rules for how tickets could be sold and resold while keeping a string of documentation for who's bought and sold and destroyed tickets. So you'd hope that would work. You really would. Another way that I've seen tickets being distributed, and it's a way that I've bought tickets several times, is through fan clubs. It's great. It's a great way of getting people together, especially people of a like mind. And I've been members of a few fan clubs over the years, but the annual cost at the moment has prevented me from resubscribing every year. So 2 annual subscription ones that I was a part of, I've bought tickets through with Megadeth and Pearl Jam. And they did it really well. I mean, Pearl Jam has their own ticketing system anyway, and have done for years and years and years. And from what I can gather, it works really well. Megadeth do something similar. So they don't do the whole kind of lottery thing, but they do let you know when things are going on sale. I think you have a week pre-roll to get tickets before they go on general sale. But yeah, the thing was the cost. I mean, with Megadeth, I think they have 3 or 4 different price tiers for buying into the club. So they have one at $20, and it goes up, I think, up to about 50 or 60, which is when you get all the kind of the fun stuff. Which if you live abroad like I do, if you live out of the States like I do, it costs a hell of a lot to get it sent to you. So that was one of the reasons I kind of said, okay, I've still got my membership number, I'm still kind of in their system, but the next time they come this way and I want to get tickets, that's when I'll resubscribe. It's not like Pearl Jam, where you, in order to keep your kind of place in the lottery, I think the longer you've been a fan, or the longer you've been in the fan club, the better your chances are when the tickets come out. That's how I understand it. And in order to do that, you have to resubscribe every year. With Megadeth, you don't. Excuse me. So they actually do a really cool system with personalised passwords. So you get an email, and it has a password that is locked to your email address. And that password is then good, I think, for one purchase. But you can purchase like tickets to 5 different shows with that password. It just all has to be done on the same transaction. There's also the Metallica fan club. I think it's called the Fifth Member fan club, and you become a part of that when you purchase something from their online store, I believe. That's what I was told recently. And I mean, for someone like the Foo Fighters, that would probably be a nice way to go, because obviously they've never wanted to have this class system where people are paying money to get more exclusive content. So to have a free one where, if you buy, I mean, most of us buy stuff from the store anyway, so it would make sense for them to go that way, and then they can do similar things to what other bands have done. But there's 101 ways to sell tickets that are far better than what's happening at the moment. I'm not going to list them all here because, we'll be here until flipping doomsday. If you let me rattle on about that long enough, it's like I'll keep going. Okay, so enough about what can be done, and let's go and talk about what is being done at the minute. So, we already know that Ticketmaster have the technology in place to stop scalpers in their tracks. This was brought into play in 2017 for the One Love concert in Manchester. And the reasoning behind them deploying the technology was they knew there would be absolute uproar if scalpers got their hands on those tickets. I think the tickets were priced at like £30. And for those who don't know the history of the One Love concert, it was put on in the wake of the very tragic bombing at the Manchester Arena. It was put together in like 3 weeks, and they wanted to give the city a chance to get together and heal. And Ticketmaster made this decision to deploy this anti-scalper technology so that the tickets would actually go to people who wanted to go, and so that they would pay this £30 and not pay any more. That obviously was taken up by the government, and the government, asked Ticketmaster. They said, why are you only deploying this now? We get so many complaints about this, and you have this technology at hand, but you've only used it once for this show. And their response was basically, meh, don't know. So they did bring in a scheme called Verified Fan. And it kind of makes me smile a little bit, because it's a bit like going to your favourite fast food restaurant, and you get the pictures of like the burgers and things, and they all look great, and then when your meal comes out, it looks nothing like the picture at all. And it kind of felt a little bit like Ticketmaster had done that. Like, they said, okay, we're listening to the fans want a way to not have to deal with scalpers, so we'll give them one. And they kind of came out like, all sweet and cute, went, ta-da, look, we've made you. And I feel like the fans kind of just sat there and went, yeah, that's not quite what we wanted. There's far easier ways of doing it. I think on the surface, like, the verified fan system can be quite easy to use, but then there have been times when it's been quite complicated. If you Google, I think, Taylor Swift verified fan, it'll bring up articles on what fans had to do to, like, get ahead in the line for her tickets. And there were a lot of complaints. There were a lot of people who were annoyed with the way it worked. Apparently it did work, but it got complicated quite quickly. So, excuse me. Basically, you sign up for it and you start out at the back of the line. And with the Taylor Swift shows, you could move along the line by doing different things. And this could be as simple as like watching a video or tweeting about the show. Then there were other ways of like, you could get even further along the line by spending more money. So I think it was something like you could buy 13 copies of the album from 13 different places, and that would like really push you along the line. You could also buy limited edition merchandise and things like that that would again keep putting you closer and closer to the front of the line. If you were right at the back, you weren't guaranteed a code to buy tickets. So the further along you were, the more kind of guarantee you had of getting a code. But from like reading reports on it and stuff, it's like people were logging in and like registering their boosts and stuff, and it's like the ticker that told them where they were in the line didn't work properly. Like there were people buying the album several times and they were still like at the back of the line and stuff, and they were saying there was no indication to what they had to do to get close to the front. Again, this kind of puts this class system into play again, because you've got the people who have the means to buy 13 copies of an album and, t-shirts and jewelry and stuff to get close to the front of the line. And then you have the people that, maybe only can afford one copy of the album and don't want to push themselves to breaking point to try and get tickets. Obviously there was ways that you could do it without spending more money, like watching videos and tweeting and Facebooking and Instagramming and stuff, but they didn't count as much. So say like buying an album was like 2 points, to getting you close to the front, like tweeting about it was 1 point. It's a great idea, but I don't quite know how it's working. I don't know if it's really been deployed here in the UK. I've seen it a lot over in the States, but not really over here. And this leads us on to an article by a gentleman called Ken Lowson. And again, if you go on Google and Google the man who broke Ticketmaster, it will bring this article up. So it's from February 2017, and it's on Vice. And Ken Lowson was the most infamous ticket scalper. A few years ago, he switched teams, and now he's working to stop them. So he was the guy that he created bots. In a nutshell, that's what he did. And he eventually, it says, I think it was 2010, he was arrested on wire fraud charges. And that's when he decided to change teams. So the article starts out, it says, in February 2005, after the band won its third Grammy of the night, U2 drummer Larry Mullen Jr. stepped to the microphone and made an announcement about the band's upcoming Vertigo tour. Due to circumstances beyond our control, a lot of our long-suffering fans didn't get tickets, he said. And I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of the band to apologise for that. There was a very specific reason die-hard fans couldn't buy tickets. Ken Lowson, the most successful and notorious ticket scalper in history, had bought nearly all of the 500 general admission tickets that were made available to the band's fan club for each show. When the sale dropped, we took 496 in New York, 492 in Boston, 496 in LA, he said. They apologised on the Grammys because of us, and then they had a second round of sales to make up for it. We took all the good tickets in that round too. So you can just see how involved this industry is. So the first half of that article is basically the history of him and his company, how they did everything, how they found all these loopholes. Basically, they found a bunch of loopholes in Ticketmaster, exploited them, and he's now working to close them. So it goes on to say, we pulled so many tickets that we had to choose which seats we didn't want. When tickets for the 2006 Rose Bowl National Championship game went on sale, he bought almost all of the tickets offered to the public. The company's purchase reports show it bought the best tickets for AC/DC's reunion tour, Elton John, Paul McCartney, Lady Gaga, playoff sports, Wicked on Broadway, and most likely any show you wanted to go to in the mid-2000s that you weren't able to get tickets to. We'd buy all of the good seats so quickly the fans would have to buy our leftovers and throwbacks, Blake Collins, who worked for the company for nearly a decade, said. So one of the things we said earlier is that a person should be able to fill in Ticketmaster's forms in about 10 seconds. In those 10 seconds, you would have been up against these bots that can fill in that same form, 100, 200, 300, 400 times in that same 10 seconds. So the second half of the article goes on to talk about the ways that fans are locked out of getting tickets, and some of the loopholes that are being looked at to be closed. So most tickets for the most popular shows are never made available to the public. The New York Attorney General's report determined that the majority of tickets to the most popular concerts are not reserved for the general public. Instead, some are sold in pre-sales, which, bots or not, favour brokers because they have access to databases of passwords and access to all credit card-specific pre-sales. Others are put on hold for promoters, advertisers, radio stations, venues, VIP packages and corporate sponsors, or sold directly to scalpers by the venues themselves. When tickets go on public sale, so anything that's after a pre-sale is the public sale, an average of only 46% of tickets go on sale to the public, according to the report. For more popular events, so the Foo Fighters, Metallica, bands like that, the percentage available in public sales can be much lower. It's rare for the public to see ticket charts that venues and promoters are privy to. But in 2009, a seating chart for Taylor Swift's concert at Nashville's Bridgestone Arena became public. 11,720 of the 13,330 seats in the venue were accounted for before the public sale. So there were just 1,610 tickets left to anyone who didn't get one in the pre-sale. We don't know how many were in the pre-sale, or didn't have one on hold, couldn't get one through the promoter or an advertiser or a competition or whatever. Just 1,610 tickets. So historically, TicketMaster's stated ticket limits have rarely been enforced and are easily got around. This is something people have been talking about for years. TicketMaster has a ticket limit for almost every show it puts on sale, which is designed to stop scalpers from buying a ton of tickets. Careful scalpers easily get around this by using multiple credit cards with multiple addresses. Most don't even worry about it because Ticketmaster usually doesn't cancel tickets that have already been sold. Lawson told me that he always ignored ticket limits and only had tickets cancelled by the Allman Brothers. Ticketmaster disputes this claim and says it regularly and strictly cancels tickets. The New York Attorney General noted that historically, tickets have only been cancelled if artists request a special audit after tickets go on sale. A representative of several top artists playing for the largest arenas told the New York Attorney General they had been unaware that Ticketmaster required a separate auditing request to enforce limits the artist had already requested and therefore never made such a request. So basically, you go on Ticketmaster, right? And it says you can only buy 4 tickets for a show. Unless somebody from that band asks Ticketmaster themselves to do an audit to make sure that each sale is only 4 tickets, you can buy as many as you want. I don't recommend it because it has happened recently it's happened very, very recently in the past couple of years where people have bought 5 or 6 tickets, and they've been cancelled. So I don't recommend doing it, but this is what has been happening. Additionally, every ticket broker has multiple credit cards with multiple addresses, meaning they appear to be different people who can buy more tickets than the limit states. Scalpers have an information and technological advantage over fans. An invite-only website called Shows on Sale provides its members with an exhaustive list of every pre-sale and pre-sale password and public sale in the world, which is pulled from signing up for thousands of venue and artist mailing lists and signing up for specific credit cards. This means that scalpers can and do buy in every pre-sale that is supposedly meant for fans, and the average scalper probably knows about more pre-sale opportunities than a casual fan ever will. A Shows on Sale subscription costs $120 a month and is one of a suite of companies that offer information and tools for brokers. Other websites offer drop checkers, which constantly ping Ticketmaster's servers after a show is already sold out to see if additional tickets are on sale, and specialised browsers that create new sessions for each tab, meaning that a broker can make multiple Ticketmaster requests within a single browser. So one of the things we keep talking about is this, and tickets are incorrectly priced, which then gives an incentive for scalping. If there's a reliably profitable secondary market for tickets, that means tickets being priced too inexpensively by the artist. Pricing tickets too low is an understandable decision for an artist to make, because obviously no one wants to play to an empty venue, and no artist wants to be seen as greedily extracting as much money as possible from the fans. When face value ticket prices increase, scalpers generally respond by sitting sales out, meaning less competition for fans during public on sale. There's an emotional aspect to what artists do, which is to say, I'm not willing to charge $500, even though the market value is clearly $500. I'm going to charge $100, and at the end of the day, someone else is going to make that money. Rich Holtz, head of StubHub's music business development, told me. The marketplace will always exist as long as artists won't increase their ticket prices. Obviously, no artist wants to be that person that is going to lock out people from their shows. Obviously, there are people who will pay $500 a ticket, but I think, they're not in the minority, but they're probably not as many as we think they are. It's like, can you imagine paying $500 for a GA ticket to Wembley, where this, you're with kind of 80,000 other people? I don't think it would work, So it could be possible for Ticketmaster to implement regional buying restrictions tied to a consumer's credit card billing address, and it does this on very rare occasions. For instance, when I was buying tickets, you had to live in the general Cleveland area to buy Cleveland Cavaliers seasons tickets. Ticketmaster says such decisions are up to the venues and artists, but at least theoretically possible to identify scalpers and prevent them from buying tickets using a person's purchase history. If a customer is buying hundreds of tickets to shows all over the country, they are most likely a scalper. So that's something I think we've talked about as well, is looking at people's purchase history, and that, they'll have the software and the algorithms to do this, and to be able to look how widely and often people are buying tickets. If they're only buying 4 or 5 shows a year, chances are they're not going to be a scalper. If they're buying for shows that are every day of the week, and it's multiple different shows in multiple different cities, and they're doing this over, you can tell if people have several accounts, even on our extremely basic, it's clunking along 15-year-old code website. We can tell if people have more than one account. It's not hard to do. I'm sure that Ticketmaster can do the same. So this article does say that bots aren't the be-all and end-all of the problem, and that sometimes they are basically a convenient scapegoat. I do recommend going and reading it. It is a long read article. Make a cup of coffee, make a cup of tea, read it over lunch or whatever. It is well worth reading. But he does say bots are still a problem. The New York Attorney General's office makes clear that bots are still exerting pressure on the primary ticket market. A spokesperson at the agency told me that the office believes that many brokers use ineffective, off-the-shelf software that can be bought for a few $1,000s, but big-time brokers program their own bespoke bot solutions, such as Lawson and his company did. The sophisticated and successful ones are constantly revising their bot software, waiting for Ticketmaster to make changes and changing with them, the spokesperson said. Ticketmaster agrees that anti-bot legislation isn't likely to greatly change bot activity. The company said it blocked 5 million bot attempts in 2015, and that bot activity increased 10% between 2015 and 2016. So something that's been bought in recent years is paperless tickets. So paperless tickets help stop scalpers, but they can still be got around. So-called paperless tickets are an anti-scalping measure that requires the purchasing credit card to be presented at the venue on the night of the concert. This requirement makes scalpers' lives much harder, but is regularly got around by the most serious operations. Lawson, for instance, told his wholesalers to ask their customers for their credit cards before a sale happened. Their company then used the bots to buy paperless tickets directly on fans' credit cards. So the concert industry relies on scalpers to buy tickets. We kind of get that. I mean, if you're trying to sell out an 80,000 person venue, it's going to be a big deal to do, and I think the 3 Foo Fighters shows from last year, there were 2 London dates and a Manchester date, they sold out in 4 hours. How much of that was down to scalpers, I don't know. How much of it is down to us rabid fans trying to get hold of tickets? I don't know. But they go on to say Ticketmaster's job is to sell tickets. They want to sell as many as they can, and if they want to sell to thousands of people who are going to resell them, they have the right to do so. That's what the laws are. So there you have it. And he goes on to say, because ticket scalpers can buy tickets for any show and are better at buying tickets than fans, the main problem is not banning bots, it's making sure that the opportunity to buy face value tickets are targeted directly to fans and not at scalpers. Lawson says banned sports teams and Ticketmaster can't continue to blame scalping while continuing to cut backroom deals that only help scalpers. The game is rigged and this secrecy can't survive in a WikiLeaks world, he said. His new venture, TixFan, is a consultancy firm that will work directly with teams and artists to plug the holes he exploited. Published ticket limits will be enforced, pre-sales will be micro-targeted at specific groups in hopes of keeping scalpers out, and tickets won't be sold to known scalpers. Fingers crossed that actually succeeds. Gonna keep an eye out for him. Do have a look for him, Ken Lawson, and we'll see what he's up to. You never know, might actually end up talking to him at some point. If this carries on, you don't get bored of listening to me. There was something I was going to say relating to all of this, and I'll be reminded later on. So what can be done in the here and now? One of the things is to listen to the fans. Like, really, actually properly listen to the fans. Sit down with them. Hear the issues they have. Hear the problems they have. What they want from companies. Because it can't go on for much longer. It really can't. You know, we live in a world where we're becoming more and more of service to one another, so we help one another out, and to have a company as big as that basically ignoring their entire market it's not a good thing. And it'd be great to sit with them and talk this through and see if there are real solutions, real workable solutions that can be put into place. One of the things that I came across is that sports teams, I think it's primarily a European thing. I don't know if I've seen it stateside or anywhere else. It's primarily European. It's primarily football teams have supporter liaison officers or fan liaison officers who act as a link between the club and the players and the fans. And so they're the people that will listen to complaints and compliments. They're the people that kind of, I assume, arrange, you know, signing events and fundraising events and things like that. You know, they're those people. And if there's a couple of bands that do that as well, they don't, or maybe don't have a specific staff member for it, but the actual artists themselves are known to go on social media and they'll go through comments and stuff, and if there's problems they'll help to sort them out, or they'll contact somebody who can sort them out anyway. And I think it is a case of actually sitting down with the people who go to the concerts and go to shows and go to see sports teams play and say, okay, let's solve this once and for all. Let's try and deploy the technology. Let's put something workable in place whereby you are the first people that get first pick of tickets. It would be great to do that. It would be absolutely brilliant, because one of the things is we live in such a high-speed world now. It's like everybody's doing 20 things at once. Sitting down for me and talking to you guys for, what am I at, nearly 45 minutes now, is a bit of an ask. It's like, okay, I need to do this and this, and I need to finish editing that book, and I need to finish writing the end of that one, and all that stuff needs to go on eBay, and it's like I really need to go and do the dishes, and the washing needs to... we live in a high-speed world, and it kind of almost feels like Ticketmaster and Live Nation are kind of a clunky old company that hasn't really kept up with the times. Or they have, but they've not kept up with them in the right way, and they're not targeting the right people. Well, they are targeting the right people, but the people that shouldn't be getting in, so the scalpers, are still getting in and getting everything. But yeah, I definitely recommend going in and listening to Ken Lawson, or going and reading Ken Lawson's article. So it's the man who broke Ticketmaster. Listening to Freakonomics episode number 311, and just, kind of trying to figure out how we're going to fix this for the better and make the world a little better and a little bit easier. Because nobody should be fighting for concert tickets. There are bigger things out there that need fighting right now. Climate change, political divisions, things like that. That you should be able to go on, click buy on a concert ticket, and go back out and keep changing the world in the amazing ways that you do. Because you do. So many of you, who I've spoken to and who listen to these, you do incredible stuff out there. And it's always amazing to see your stories and hear what you're doing and see what you're doing, and never, ever, ever stop doing what you're doing, will you? Keep being really amazing. I want to thank you for listening to me ramble on for 45 minutes. Again, comment, share. If there's anything you want me to cover, please let me know. If you're on social media, please do come and say hi. I'm on facebook.com/the Queen of Steam. My Facebook page is called Ragey, so it's my author page. I'm also on Instagram at Roswell Publishing. So the little town in New Mexico that had the UFO crash. So yeah, at Roswell Publishing. Come and say hi. It'd be great to see you. Great to get to know you. Great to talk about this stuff with you. Great to talk music, and Foo Fighters and everything else in between. Take care. Thank you so much again for listening and being here right now. And hopefully we'll talk again soon. Take care. Bye.